Parents will no longer be able to withdraw their children from sex education classes at the age of 15 in England. School Secretary Ed Balls, who announced the move, said it will mean teenagers will receive at least 1 year of sex and relationships education before the age of consent. The new statutory curriculum will apply to all schools, including faith schools, although they will be able to teach topics within the tenets of their faith. Well, to discuss this now, we can talk to Mike Judge from the Christian Institute. He's in our Newcastle studio, and Andy Brown from the Association of Teachers and Lecturers. Mike Judge, if I can start with you, what's your reaction to this move?
I think this is a terrible intrusion on the right of parents. The government isn't responsible for educating children, parents are. And parents don't lose that right on their 15th birthday. And I think there's hardly a teenager left in Britain that doesn't know how to roll on a condom. And yet sexually transmitted infections are going through the roof, and so are teenage abortions. Sex education has been a disaster. We need less of it, not more of it.
Well, Andy Brown, you heard Mike Judge there saying this was a terrible intrusion in the rights of parents. Would you agree with that?
No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think that the facts of life, shall we say, are the things that are learnt in the playground from a very, very young age. And I think those are the issues that parents feel quite rightly sore about. But that's not what this is about. It's not about teaching the facts of life. It's about teaching being a responsible adult, being a responsible citizen, looking at others around us and being tolerant of them and their lifestyles. And I think, I mean, this is simply one small area of the PSHE curriculum, which we're very, very pleased that it's been given a much higher status. Until now it was very much an also-ran. And when Mike says perhaps that sex education wasn't a particularly well taught subject in schools, well, I mean, one of the things that the review has suggested is that for those who feel uncomfortable in doing it, for those who feel underqualified in doing it, that there will be in initial teacher training a much more beefed up way of making teachers feel that they can meet the demands of teaching such a sensitive subject. And okay, we are very aware that it is sensitive, and it's sensitive to do with faith, to do with culture.
Mike Judge, isn't the point here that Ed Balls has been making that in this day and age you simply can't deny pupils the necessary information that they need as they approach the age of consent?
Oh, well, but, you know, children are not being denied information, are they? They're being overloaded with information, and not just in schools, but also in the popular media with magazines and
so presumably this won't make much difference then?
No, I think it does, because school should be the one place where children are spared this pressure to be sexualised. You know, let's give our kids back their innocence. As I say, sex education is not a new thing. We've had it for 30 years. It has made no impact on the sexual health of teenagers. In fact, it's made the problem worse. And this is not just my view, it's the view of an increasing number of academics who are beginning to say exposure to this kind of education and availability of contraception is actually encouraging risk-taking sexual behaviour. What we ought to be doing is saying sex is for adults, not for children.
What would you say to that, Andy Brown, this point that if you talk to children about these matters in schools, if you make it sound like this is a normal sort of thing for them to be thinking and talking about, that it increases the pressure upon them to perhaps get involved in sexual relationships earlier than they might have done otherwise? I mean,
I don't think that any teacher turns round and makes an assertion that it's normal behaviour. I think what teachers do in schools is to act responsibly. And what they say to pupils is that we understand that things go on, and we understand that things happen. We want to teach you how to deal with this responsibly.
What about this point that it's done nothing to bring down, for example, the rates of teenage pregnancies?
Well, I mean, Mike has mentioned about information and information overload, and he's completely right. And we live in the Google age, where information is available at the touch of fingertips. There is an argument to suggest that education is about teaching young people how to take the information that they already know and giving them the skills in how to use and utilise that information properly.
Okay, thank you very much indeed to Andy Brown and Mike Judge. Thanks both very much indeed for talking.